The quiet species ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the crystal corridors of the Galactic Council station. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the smooth floor. Around her, dozens of alien species moved about their business. Some had scales that shimmered in the artificial light. Others had tentacles that waved as they talked. A few looked almost human except for their bright purple skin or extra arms. Sarah had been coming to this station for 5 years now. 5 long years of trying to get the Council to take humanity seriously. 5 years of being treated like a child asking adults for permission to sit at the big table. She reached the Council chamber doors. They were massive things, made from some kind of metal that changed colors. 2 Craxian guards stood beside them. The Craxians looked like giant beetles wearing armor. Their compound eyes tracked Sarah as she approached. Ambassador Chen, one of them said in the universal translator voice that all aliens used, "The Council will see you now." Sarah nodded and walked through the doors. The Council chamber was huge. Seats arranged in circles went up toward the ceiling. In those seats sat the representatives of over 200 species. They were the rulers of the galaxy, or at least they thought they were. At the center of the chamber was a small platform. This was where species came to ask for things, to beg for help, to report problems. Sarah had stood on that platform many times before. Human ambassador, called out Counselor Vex. He was the leader of the Council today. Vex looked like a cross, between a lizard and a bird. His voice was sharp and annoying. "You have requested another hearing. What does Earth want this time?" Sarah stepped onto the platform. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes watched. Some looked bored, others looked annoyed. A few seemed amused, like they were watching entertainment. "Honored counselors," Sarah began. She had practiced this speech many times. "I come before you today to report serious crimes against human citizens. The Zilani Empire has been attacking our trade ships. They have taken our people as slaves. Just last week, they destroyed a passenger ship carrying 300 families. Murmurs went around the chamber. But they were not murmurs of concern. They sounded more like annoyance. Counselor Vex looked at his data pad. The humans again complain. "About the Zilani. This is becoming tiresome." "Counselor Thane," Sarah said, turning to another section of the chamber, "your species trades with us. You know we are peaceful people. We follow all galactic laws. We pay our taxes. We cause no trouble. Why will the Council not protect us?" Counselor Thane was from a species that looked like walking plants. His leaves rustled as he spoke. "Ambassador Chen, the humans are a very young species. You have been in space for less than 100 years. The Zilani Empire has existed for over 3,000 years. They are a powerful force in this galaxy. But they are murdering innocent people," Sarah said. Her voice was getting louder. She tried to control it. Getting angry never helped with the Council. "The galaxy is a dangerous place," said Counselor Zeph. She was from a species that lived in water tanks. Her voice bubbled as she spoke. "Young species must learn to defend themselves, or they must find protection under stronger species." Sarah felt her heart sink. She had heard these words before. The Council had a simple rule. Strong species could do what they wanted to weak species, as long as they did not threaten the Council. Itself, the Council did not care. "Perhaps," said Counselor Vex, "it is time for humanity to accept reality. The Zilani have offered to take Earth under their protection. You would become a client species. Your people would be safe." "As slaves," Sarah said. "As protected beings," Vex corrected. "Many species have found happiness under Zilani guidance. They provide security. They provide purpose. They provide structure." Sarah looked around the chamber. She saw the faces of beings who ruled star systems, who controlled the fate of billions of people, and she saw that they did not care about justice. They only cared about power. "The Council has made its decision," Vex announced. "Humanity will accept Zilani protection within 30 days. This will end the conflict. This will bring peace." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked. Vex's lizard-like face showed what might have been a smile. "Then you will face the consequences of that choice." The galaxy does not coddle children forever. The session ended. Sarah walked out of the chamber with her head held high, but inside she was falling apart. She had failed. After 5 years of trying, she had failed to protect her people. She made her way to the communication center. There she sent a message back to Earth. The message was simple. Council vote complete. Protection offer confirmed. Zilani deadline 30 days. Recommend immediate preparation of Response Protocol 7. Sarah had never expected to send that message. Response Protocol 7 was something Earth had hoped never to use. It was a plan made by people who understood that sometimes diplomacy was not enough. On Earth, the message reached the Global Defense Council within minutes. Admiral James Torres read it 3 times. Then he walked to a secure terminal and typed, in a code that had been waiting for 5 years. All over Earth, quiet facilities began to wake up. Factories that had been building civilian equipment started showing their true purpose. Research stations that studied agriculture revealed massive weapons labs. Mining operations on the Moon and Mars suddenly had a very different kind of cargo to ship. The human race had spent 50 years in space being polite, being peaceful, being everything the galaxy expected from a young species. But humans had also been learning. They had been watching. They had been preparing. Sarah Chen did not know about the facilities waking up on Earth. She did not know about the ships hidden behind the Moon. She did not know about the weapons that human scientists had built using technology traded from friendly alien species. What Sarah did know was that her people were in danger. And she knew that the galaxy had just made a very serious mistake. As she walked back to her quarters on the station, Sarah began composing another message. This one would go out to every species in the galaxy, every world, every ship. It would be broadcast on all frequencies. The message was very simple. To all who hear this transmission, in 36 hours the Zilani Empire will attempt to enslave the human species. The Galactic Council has approved this action. We have asked for justice. We have asked for protection. We have been refused both. Therefore, humanity will now handle this matter ourselves. To those species who have been kind to us, we thank you. To those who have stood by and watched, we forgive you. To those who have harmed us, we are coming. Earth remembers. Earth protects its own. Sarah sent the message and sat back in her chair. Around the galaxy, billions of beings would hear those words. Most would ignore them. The humans were weak. The humans were peaceful. The humans could not possibly be a threat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lines in the void Commander Zelak of the Zilani Empire read the human message and laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge of his flagship, the Devourer. Around him, his crew joined in the laughter. The idea that humans could threaten anyone was the best joke they had heard in years. Send a reply, Zelak ordered. Tell the humans that their time of hiding is over. Tell them that in 24 hours we will arrive at their pathetic little system. Any who surrender will be allowed to live as servants. Any who resist will be destroyed. The Zilani had been expanding their empire for 3,000 years. They had conquered over 40 species. Some had fought bravely before falling. Others had surrendered immediately, but all had fallen in the end. The humans would be no different. Zelak looked at the star charts on his main screen. The human system was small. Just one star with a few planets. The humans called their star Sol and their main world Earth. Intelligence reports said Earth had a population of about 8 billion. That would make excellent slaves once they were properly trained. The Zilani fleet was impressive. 50 warships, each one the size of a human city. They carried weapons that could crack planets. They had shields that could stop almost any attack. They had conquered systems with much stronger defenses than anything the humans possessed. Sir, called out the communications officer, we are receiving a response from the human system. Put it on screen, Zelak ordered. The image that appeared showed a human woman. She was the same ambassador who had been begging the council for help. But something about her seemed different now. Her eyes were harder. Her voice was calm in a way that almost seemed dangerous. "Commander Zelak," the woman said. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have 48 hours to withdraw your fleet from human space. You have 48 hours to release all human prisoners. You have 48 hours to pay reparations for the murder of our citizens. After that time, we will consider your empire to be at war with humanity." The bridge fell silent. Then the laughter started again, even louder than before. "Admiral," Zelak said, wiping tears from his eyes, "the humans have made their ambassador into an admiral? How delightfully naive. Tell me, Admiral Chen, what makes you think you can threaten the Zilani Empire?" Sarah Chen's expression did not change. "Commander Zelak, your species has existed for 3,000 years. In that time, you have conquered 42 other species. You have enslaved billions of beings. You believe this makes you strong." "It does make us strong," Zelak replied. "No," Sarah said quietly. "It makes you bullies, and bullies always make the same mistake. They think their victims will stay victims forever." "Your species is barely 50 years old in space," Zelak said. "You have no weapons, no real ships, no military tradition. What could you possibly do to threaten us?" 47 hours and 37 minutes, Sarah said. "And you will find out." The transmission ended. Zelak stared at the empty screen for a moment. Then he shrugged. "Increase speed. I want to reach their system in 30 hours instead of 48. Let us show these humans what happens when they threaten their betters." The Zilani fleet surged forward through space. Behind them, they left a trail of destroyed human trade ships and burning colonies. The galaxy watched and waited. Most species expected the humans to surrender quickly. A few hoped the humans might put up enough of a fight to entertain them. On our Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the command center buried deep beneath the planet's surface. Around her, screens showed data from across the solar system. Ships were moving, weapons were charging. Plans that had been theoretical for decades were now becoming reality. "Status report," she ordered. "All orbital platforms are online," reported Captain Martinez. "Luna base reports full readiness. Mars fleet is moving into position. The outer system perimeter is established. What about our special projects? The Prometheus arrays are charged and ready. The Nemesis protocol is standing by. And Admiral, the volunteers for Project Lazarus are in position." Sarah nodded. Project Lazarus was the most dangerous part of their plan. It required human ships to get very close to enemy vessels. Many of the volunteers would not survive. But they had all stepped forward anyway. "Incoming transmission from the Zilani fleet," another officer reported. "Put it through." Commander Zelak's face appeared on the main screen, but this time he was not laughing. His expression was angry. "Human Admiral," he snarled. "My fleet has just encountered something impossible. Your trade ships are fighting back." "How is this possible?" Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Commander, did you really think we would send our people out into a hostile galaxy without any way to protect themselves?" "But they are cargo ships, civilian vessels." "With civilian crews," Sarah agreed. "Civilian crews who are also part of our reserve fleet. Every human ship in space has weapons, Commander. We just kept them hidden until now." Zelak's face grew darker. "It does not matter. A few armed cargo ships cannot stop my fleet." "You are right," Sarah said. "They cannot stop you, but they can slow you down. They can send us information about your tactics. They can make you angry and careless. And most importantly, they can show the galaxy that humans do not go quietly into slavery." On his flagship, Zelak watched his tactical display with growing frustration. The human cargo ships were not trying to win battles. They were trying to cause as much damage as possible before they died, and they were succeeding. Each human ship fought like it had nothing to lose. They used tactics that Zelak had never seen before. They set traps. They used their own ships as weapons. They coordinated their attacks in ways that turned the Zilani fleet's strength against itself. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we have lost 3 ships and damaged 12 others. The humans are using some kind of new technology." "What kind of technology?" "They seem to be able to predict our movements. Every time we try a standard attack pattern, they are ready for us. Zelak did not understand that humans had been studying Zelani tactics for 5 years. Every battle the Zelani had fought was recorded. Every strategy was analyzed. Human computers had run millions of simulations, finding weaknesses that the Zelani did not even know they had. "It does not matter," Zelak declared. "We still outnumber them 100 to 1. Continue the advance." But each hour brought new surprises. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished. Space mines exploded in seemingly empty areas. Communications were jammed and restored in patterns that made no sense. By the time the Zelani fleet reached the edge of the Sol system, they had lost 8 ships. 12 more were badly damaged. Commander Zelak's confidence was beginning to crack. "Send a message to the human admiral," he ordered. "Tell her that I am willing to negotiate new terms." The reply came quickly. Admiral Chen appeared on his screen again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood dozens of other humans in military uniforms. All of them had the same hard look in their eyes. "Commander Zelak," Sarah said, "you had 48 hours to withdraw. That time has passed. You are now at war with humanity." "Wait," Zelak said quickly. "We can still reach an agreement. The Zelani Empire is willing to offer better terms." "The time for terms has passed," Sarah replied. "You have murdered our people. You have enslaved our citizens. You have threatened our home. Now you will face the consequences. You cannot defeat the Zelani Empire. We have 1,000 ships. We have conquered dozens of species. We have ruled the galaxy for centuries." Sarah's smile was cold. "Commander, you have made one critical error in your calculations." "What error?" "You assumed that Earth was defenseless. You assumed that humans were weak. You assumed that 50 years in space was not enough time to build a real military force." Sarah leaned forward. "You were wrong on all counts." Around the Sol system, new contacts began appearing on Zelani sensors, ships that had been hidden behind planets and moons, space stations that had been disguised as asteroids, weapon platforms that had been dormant until this moment. The Zelani fleet suddenly found itself outnumbered 3 to 1. "Impossible," Zelak whispered. "Commander," Sarah said, "you are about to learn why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. It is not because we are the strongest. It is not because we are the smartest. It is because when you threaten our families, we become something else entirely." The transmission ended. In the dark of space, the human fleet began to move. The awakening storm captain, Marcus Reed, stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. No one spoke unless they had to. Everyone knew what was coming. Marcus was 45 years old. He had spent 20 years in the Earth Defense Force waiting for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now that war was here, and he discovered something about himself. He was not afraid. He was angry. "Enemy fleet bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. 50 ships. They are moving into attack formation." "Any response to our surrender demand?" Marcus asked. "No, sir. They are ignoring all communications." Marcus nodded. He had not expected the Zelani to surrender, but Earth's rules of war required him to offer the chance. Now that chance was gone. "All ships," he said into his communicator. "This is Admiral Reed. Execute Plan Omega. Show them what humans do to bullies." The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves. They had trained for this moment for decades. Every pilot knew their role. Every gunner had practiced their shots 1,000 times. Every ship captain understood the plan perfectly. The Zelani had expected a traditional battle. 2 fleets facing each other in space, trading shots until one side won. That was how space battles had been fought for thousands of years. It was how the Zelani had always fought. The humans did something different. Commander Zelak watched his sensors with growing confusion. The human ships were not forming a battle line. Instead, they were splitting into small groups. Some groups were moving very fast toward his fleet. Others were hanging back. A few seemed to be heading away from the battle entirely. "What are they doing?" he asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. This does not match any known battle formation. The first human group reached the Zilani fleet at incredible speed. Zelak expected them to slow down and engage in normal combat. Instead, they flew straight through his formation, firing as they went. "Damage report!" Zelak shouted as his ship shook from multiple hits. Forward shields down to 60%. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Enemy ships are past us and turning for another attack run. Turn the fleet around, follow those ships. Sir, if we turn around, we will expose our rear to the other human groups. Zelak realized the trap too late. As his ships turned to chase, the first human group, the other groups attacked from different directions. The Zilani fleet found itself surrounded and confused, but the real surprise was still coming. "Sir," his sensor officer shouted, "I am reading massive energy signatures from the inner system." "What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown, but they are very large and getting larger." On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the battle displays with satisfaction. The Zilani were reacting exactly as the simulations had predicted. They were powerful, but they were also predictable. "Fire the Prometheus arrays," she ordered. Hidden in the asteroid belt, 12 massive weapons platforms turned toward the battle. They had been built in secret over 10 years, disguised as mining operations. Each one was the size of a small moon and packed with the most advanced weapons humanity could build. The Zilani fleet was 40 light minutes away from the arrays. But the weapons they fired did not travel at the speed of light. They traveled much faster. Commander Zelak was shouting orders when space around his fleet suddenly filled with brilliant light. Weapons fire from the Prometheus arrays struck his ships with impossible accuracy. The shots had been fired before the battle even started, aimed at where the human computers predicted the Zilani fleet would be. "Shield failure on ships 7, 12, and 23, his tactical officer reported. "Hull breaches on over half the fleet." "Sir, what just hit us?" Zelak did not know. The shots had come from somewhere in the inner system, but his sensors showed nothing there capable of such power. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Random patterns. Do not let them predict our positions." But the human fleet was not finished. As the Zilani ships scattered, trying to avoid more long-range fire, the human ships pressed their attack. They moved in coordinated groups, each group with a specific mission. Group 1 kept the Zilani ships confused and moving. Group 2 targeted damaged enemy vessels, finishing them off quickly. Group 3 was the most dangerous. They flew modified cargo ships filled with explosives directly at Zilani capital ships. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from one of the attacking human ships." "Put it on screen." The image showed a young human woman at the controls of a small ship. Behind her, Marcus could see that her ship was badly damaged. Smoke filled the air. Warning lights flashed red. "This is Lieutenant Sarah Kim of the cargo. Ship Hope," she said. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her. "I am carrying 200 tons of antimatter explosives. My ship is damaged and I cannot return to base. I am therefore requesting permission to ram the enemy flagship." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Sarah Kim was barely 25 years old. She had joined the Earth Defense Force to protect her family back on Mars. "Permission granted, Lieutenant," he said quietly. "It has been an honor serving with you." "Thank you, sir. Tell my family that I kept my promise to keep them safe." The transmission ended. Marcus watched as the small cargo ship accelerated toward the massive Zilani flagship. Enemy weapons fire filled space around the Hope, but Sarah Kim flew through, it like she was dancing. Her ship took hit after hit, but she kept flying. At the last second, she transmitted a final message on all frequencies. "For Earth, for humanity, for all the innocent people you murdered." The Hope struck the Zilani flagship at nearly the speed of light. The explosion that followed lit up space for millions of kilometers. When the light faded, the flagship was gone. So were 3 other Zilani ships that had been too close. Across the human fleet, similar sacrifices were taking place. Ship after ship chose to ram enemy vessels rather than retreat. Each time, the pilot sent the same message: "For Earth." Commander Zelak found himself in command of the Zilani fleet when his flagship was destroyed. His new ship was smaller and less powerful. Around him, His once mighty fleet was falling apart. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "we have lost over half our ships. Enemy losses are minimal. Request permission to withdraw." Zelak wanted to retreat. Every instinct told him to run, but the Zelani Empire did not tolerate failure. If he returned home defeated by humans, he would be executed. "Continue the attack," he ordered. "Call for reinforcements from the nearest base." "Sir, the nearest base is 3 days away. Then we hold for 3 days." But the humans were not planning to give them 3 days. As the battle continued, more human ships appeared from everywhere. They came from behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from hiding places the Zelani had never detected. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "I am counting over 300 human ships now. How is this possible?" Zelak did not know. The intelligence reports had said humans had fewer than 50 military vessels. Where had all these ships come from? The answer was simple. For 50 years, every human ship built had been designed to serve as both civilian vessel and warship. Cargo ships carried hidden weapons. Passenger liners had armor plating disguised as hull reinforcement. Even small personal craft could fight if needed. When the call went out, every human ship in the solar system had answered. Miners from the asteroid belt, colonists from the outer planets, even tourists who happened to be visiting Earth. All of them had armed their ships and joined the battle. The Zelani Empire had been fighting for 3,000 years, but they had never fought anything like this. They had never faced an entire species that refused to surrender. They had never encountered people who would rather die than live as slaves. As his fleet continued to shrink, Commander Zelak finally understood what the human admiral had meant. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they were willing to sacrifice everything to protect each other. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving another message from the human admiral." Admiral Chen appeared on his screen. Behind her, Marcus could see hundreds of humans working at control stations. All of them had the same determined look. "Commander Zelak," she said, "you have lost 38 ships. You have perhaps 12 vessels remaining that are capable of fighting. I am offering you one final chance to surrender." "The Zelani Empire does not surrender," Zelak replied automatically. "Then you will die here," Chen said simply. "But before you do, I want you to understand something. This battle is not about territory. It is not about resources. It is not about conquest. This battle is about the simple fact that you threatened our families." She leaned forward. "Commander, humans have one rule that we never break. We protect our own, no matter the cost, no matter the odds, no matter how powerful the enemy. You threatened our children, our parents, our brothers and sisters. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking we would forgive you for it." The transmission ended. Around the Sol system, the remaining human ships began to close in on what was left of the Zelani fleet. Commander Zelak looked at his tactical display and knew the battle was over. His mighty fleet had been destroyed by a species the galaxy considered weak. His empire's reputation was broken, and he was about to die in a system he had come to conquer. His last thought was a warning he wished he could send to the rest of the galaxy. The reckoning Wave Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled fleet commanders in the war room, deep beneath Earth's surface. The holographic display showed the entire galaxy with red markers indicating Zelani Empire territories and yellow markers showing human positions. "Gentlemen and ladies," Sarah began, "the Sol system is secure. The Zelani invasion fleet has been completely destroyed. We have captured 12 enemy vessels and over 300 prisoners, but this is only the beginning." Admiral Marcus Reed leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, our intelligence teams have finished questioning the Zelani prisoners. What they have told us is disturbing." Sarah nodded. "Show them." The display changed to show images from Zelani prison camps, humans in chains, human children being sold in slave markets, human colonies burned to ash. The room fell silent as the commanders saw what had been done to their people. The Zelani Empire holds approximately 50,000 human prisoners, Sarah continued. They have destroyed 17 human colonies. They have murdered over 200,000 of our citizens, and they have done all of this with the full knowledge and approval of the Galactic Council. Admiral Torres, a gray-haired man with cold eyes, spoke up. What are your orders, Admiral? Sarah looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leaders. These were people who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. People who understood that sometimes justice could only be delivered at the end of a gun. Operation Righteous Fury is now active, she said. We are going to dismantle the Zilani Empire. We are going to rescue our people. And we are going to make sure that what happened here never happens to any species again. The first human fleet left Sol 3 days later. 50 ships under the command of Admiral Reed, heading for the nearest Zilani military base. They carried with them weapons the galaxy had never seen, and a fury that burned like a star. The Zilani base at Proxima Station was considered impregnable. It had massive shields, hundreds of defense platforms, and a garrison of 10,000 soldiers. It had never been successfully attacked in over 500 years. Admiral Reed's fleet arrived at Proxima Station exactly 72 hours after leaving Earth. The base commander, General Thex, watched the human ships approach with amusement. 50 ships, he said to his aide. The humans send 50 ships against our mighty fortress? How quaint. General Thex had not heard about the destruction of the invasion fleet. Communications from the Sol system had been cut off at the source. As far as he knew, the humans were still a weak species that posed no threat to anyone. Open communications, he ordered. Let me speak to their commander. Admiral Reed's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired, but his eyes were as hard as steel. General Thex, Reed said. I am Admiral Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Force. You are hereby ordered to surrender this base, release all human prisoners, and submit to judgment for crimes against humanity. General Thex laughed so hard that tears ran down his scaly face. Admiral Reed, you must be joking. This base has defenses that could stop 1,000 ships. What makes you think 50 human vessels could threaten us? General, Reed said quietly, we are not here to threaten you. We are here to destroy you. You have 10 minutes to surrender. After that, we will take the base by force. And if we refuse? Reed's expression did not change. Then you will discover why the human species survived long enough to reach the stars. The transmission ended. General Thex wiped the tears from his eyes and shook his head. Humans, he said to his aide. They are even more amusing than I thought. Activate all defense systems. Let us show these children what real military power looks like. The human fleet approached the base in a formation that made no sense to Zilani military doctrine. Instead of staying together, the ships spread out in a wide circle around the station. Instead of advancing directly, they began to orbit at maximum weapons range. What are they doing? General Thex asked his tactical officer. Unknown, sir. They appear to be studying us. That was exactly what they were doing. For 10 minutes, human sensors scanned every inch of the Zilani base. They measured shield frequencies, analyzed weapon positions, and mapped defensive patterns. The information was transmitted back to Earth, where human computers processed it in seconds. Then the computers transmitted back detailed attack plans tailored specifically for this base's defenses. 10 minutes are up, Admiral Reed announced on all frequencies. General Thex, you had your chance. The human attack began with something the Zilani had never seen before. Instead of firing energy weapons, the human ships launched what looked like simple metal rods. Thousands of them, each one the size of a telephone pole. Sir, the tactical officer reported, the humans are firing metal projectiles at us. Our shields will stop them easily. But the metal rods were not ordinary projectiles. They were made of materials that human scientists had been developing for decades. Materials that became stronger under energy bombardment. Materials that could punch through shields like they were made of paper. The first rod struck the base's shields and passed right through them. They hit the outer hull with the force of nuclear explosions. Alarms began screaming throughout the station. Impossible! General Thex shouted. Our shields are rated to stop anything. Sir, his engineer called out, the human projectiles are some kind of exotic matter. They seemed to absorb energy and convert it to kinetic force. The more power we put into our shields, the stronger the projectiles become. Before General Thex could respond, the second wave of human attacks began. This time it was energy weapons. But these were not the simple laser cannons that most species used. These were focused particle beams that could burn through a planet's crust. The Zilani base had been designed to withstand attacks from conventional weapons. It had not been designed to face technology that humans had spent 50 years perfecting in secret. Within 30 minutes, the base's outer defenses were destroyed. Within an hour, human boarding parties were fighting their way through the corridors. The Zilani soldiers found themselves facing enemies who fought with a skill and determination they had never encountered. Human soldiers did not retreat when wounded. They did not surrender when outnumbered. They fought like every battle was there. Last, because they knew that somewhere in the base were human prisoners who had been counting on rescue. The battle for Proxima Station lasted 6 hours. When it was over, General Thex was dead and the base was under human control. The human prisoners were freed and given medical treatment. The Zilani survivors were placed in cells to await judgment. But Admiral Reed was not finished. From the base's communication center, he sent a message that reached every Zilani outpost in the sector. "This is Admiral Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Force," the message began. "Proxima Station has fallen. All human prisoners have been freed. All Zilani military personnel are either dead or captured. To any Zilani forces receiving this transmission, you have 24 hours to surrender. After that, we will come for you." The message was transmitted on all frequencies. It reached not just Zilani forces, but every species in the galaxy. Within hours, the news was spreading like wildfire. The humans were fighting back. The humans were winning. On the Galactic Council Station, emergency sessions were being called. Counselor Vex stared at the reports coming in from Zilani space with disbelief. "This cannot be accurate," he said to his aide. "The humans destroyed an entire invasion fleet? They captured Proxima Station? Impossible." But the reports kept coming. Human fleets were appearing throughout Zilani territory. Bases that had stood for centuries were falling in hours. Slave camps were being liberated. Zilani warships were being destroyed so quickly that their distress calls were cut off mid-transmission. "Sir," his aide said nervously, "we are receiving a priority transmission from the human ambassador." "Put her through." Admiral Chen appeared on the screen, but she was no longer wearing diplomatic robes. She was dressed in military uniform, and behind her stood a dozen other human officers. "Counselor Vex," she said, "I am no longer Ambassador Chen. I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I am calling to inform you that the Galactic Council is hereby held responsible for the genocide attempted against the human species." "Admiral," Vex said quickly, "surely we can reach some agreement. The Council was merely trying to maintain galactic peace." "By allowing the enslavement of innocent people?" Chen asked. "By permitting the murder of children? By standing aside while bullies destroyed entire civilizations?" "The galaxy is a complicated place," Vex replied. "Sometimes difficult decisions must be made." "You are right," Chen agreed. "Difficult decisions must be made. And humanity has made its decision. The old order is over, Counselor. The time when the strong could prey on the weak without consequence has ended." "What are you saying?" Admiral Chen leaned forward. "We are saying that the Galactic Council has 30 days to dissolve itself and form a new government, one that protects all species, not just the powerful ones. If you refuse, humanity will dissolve it for you. You cannot threaten the entire galaxy." "We are not threatening anyone," Chen replied calmly. "We are simply stating facts. The human species will no longer tolerate a galaxy where innocents suffer while their leaders do nothing." The new order 6 months after the first human fleet left Sol, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of the Galactic Council chamber. The great crystal dome was cracked and broken. The seats that had once held the representatives of 200 species were empty and covered in dust. Around her, human soldiers maintained security while teams of engineers worked to repair the damage. The battle for the Council Station had been brief but decisive. When the Council had refused humanity's ultimatum, human forces had arrived to enforce it. Chen walked to the center of the chamber, where the platform for petitioners had once stood. Soon this would be rebuilt as something new, something better. A place where all species could speak as equals, not as beggars asking for scraps from their superiors. "Admiral," called Captain Martinez from the entrance. "The delegates are arriving." Chen nodded. "Send them in." The delegates who entered the chamber were different from the ones who had ruled here before. Some were familiar faces, species that had chosen to work with humanity rather than against it. Others were entirely new, races that had been enslaved or oppressed by the old order, now free to speak for themselves. At the head of the group walked Councillor Thane, the plant-like being who had once dismissed human complaints. But Thane looked different now. His leaves were darker, his movements more careful. He had learned what happened to those who stood against human justice. "Admiral Chen," Thane said, his voice much more respectful than it had been 6 months ago. "The new Galactic Assembly is ready to convene." "Thank you, Counselor," Chen replied. "But before we begin, there are some things that need to be made clear." She gestured to the broken chamber around them. This building was a symbol of the old way, the way where might made right, where the strong could oppress the weak without consequence, where species like mine had to beg for basic justice. Chen turned to face the assembled delegates. "That time is over. The new Galactic Assembly will operate under different rules, rules that humanity will enforce if necessary." A nervous murmur went through the crowd. Everyone knew what humanity will enforce meant. They had all seen the reports from former Zilani territory. Entire fleets destroyed, bases captured, an empire that had lasted 3,000 years reduced to rubble in less than 6 months. "The first rule," Chen continued, "is simple. No species may attack, enslave, or oppress another species. Any government that violates this rule will face the combined military might of the human species and our allies." She looked directly at several delegates who had once supported the Zilani Empire. "The second rule is that all species have the right to representation in this assembly. No longer will young or weak civilizations be ignored. Every voice will be heard." "And the third rule," Chen said, her voice becoming harder, "is that the assembly will actively protect those who cannot protect themselves. Never again will this body stand by and watch genocide while calling it maintaining peace." Councillor Vex, who had somehow survived the collapse of the old council, raised a trembling hand. "Admiral, surely you do not expect us to police the entire galaxy. Such a task would be impossible." Chen smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Councillor Vex, humanity has spent the last 6 months proving that the impossible is simply another word for difficult. We have liberated over 400 worlds. We have freed 20 million slaves. We have destroyed the most powerful empire in the galaxy. What exactly do you think we cannot accomplish?" The silence that followed was complete. Everyone in the chamber understood that they were not witnessing a negotiation. They were witnessing the birth of a new galactic order, with humanity as its enforcer. "However," Chen continued, her voice becoming more diplomatic, "humanity does not wish to rule the galaxy. We wish to protect it. The new assembly will be led by elected representatives from all member species. Humans will serve as peacekeepers and enforcers, but we will not dictate policy." Delegate Kree, a small reptilian being whose species had been enslaved by the Zilani for 2 centuries, stepped forward. "Admiral Chen, my people are grateful for our freedom, but many of us wonder, what assurance do we have that humanity will not become the same kind of oppressor?" It was a fair question, and Chen had expected it. "Delegate Kree, let me tell you what human history has taught us. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is why humanity will never hold permanent positions in the assembly government." She gestured to the human soldiers standing guard around the chamber. "Our role is to be the sword and shield of galactic justice. Nothing more. When the assembly votes to take action against oppression, we will act. When the assembly votes to protect the innocent, we will protect them, but we will not rule." "And if humanity decides it no longer wishes to serve in this role?" asked Councillor Thane. Chen's expression became thoughtful. "Then another species will take our place. But until that day comes, humanity will stand guard. It is what we do. It is what we have always done." Over the following weeks, the new Galactic Assembly was formally established. Representatives from over 300 species took their seats in the rebuilt chamber. Many of them were species that had never been allowed to participate in galactic government before. The Assembly's first act was to establish the Galactic Protection Force, with humanity as its primary component. Human fleets would patrol the trade routes, protect peaceful worlds, and respond to threats against any member species. The second act was to create the Liberation Corps, dedicated to freeing any remaining enslaved populations throughout the galaxy. Within a year, slavery was virtually extinct in civilized space. The third act was to establish the Justice Tribunal, which would judge war criminals and those guilty of crimes against sapient beings. The former leaders of the Zilani Empire were among the first to be tried and convicted. But the most important change was not written in any law or treaty. It was the understanding that spread throughout the galaxy like ripples from a stone thrown into still water. The understanding that humanity was watching, that humanity was ready, that humanity would not allow the strong to prey on the weak ever again. Admiral Chen returned to Earth 18 months after the war began. She walked through the same crystal corridors of the rebuilt Council Station, but now they served a different purpose. Now they were the halls of an institution dedicated to protection rather than exploitation. She found herself in the memorial garden that had been built to honor those who died in the war. Thousands of names were carved into the black stone walls. Human names, but also the names of beings from dozens of other species who had fought and died for galactic freedom. At the center of the garden stood a simple monument. It bore no grand speeches or flowery words, just a simple inscription, for all those who refused to let evil triumph through their silence. As Chen read those words, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Captain Martinez approaching. "Admiral," he said, "we have received reports from the Outer Rim territories. 3 more species have applied for Assembly membership. They are asking for human protection while they establish their new governments." Chen nodded. "Grant their request. Assign the Second Fleet to patrol their space until they are stable." "Yes, ma'am." "Admiral, there is something else. Intelligence reports that a new empire is forming in the Andromeda sector. They call themselves the Iron Dominion. Early reports suggest they are enslaving primitive species." Chen's expression hardened. "How many ships do they have?" "Approximately 200. They seem to believe that the destruction of the Zilani Empire was a fluke. They think humanity got lucky." Chen looked back at the memorial wall, at the names of all those who had died to protect the innocent. Then she looked up at the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. "Captain," she said quietly, "prepare the Third Fleet for deployment. It seems we need to teach another group of bullies that humanity does not believe in luck." "Yes, ma'am. What should I tell them when they ask what our intentions are?" Chen smiled, and for the first time in months it was a genuinely warm expression. "Tell them the same thing we told the Zilani. Tell them the same thing we will tell every would-be tyrant in this galaxy. Tell them that Earth protects its own, and in this new galaxy, everyone is our own." As she walked away from the memorial garden, Admiral Chen could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Humanity had taken on the role of galactic protector, and that role would never end. There would always be new threats. There would always be new bullies who thought they could prey on the weak. But there would also always be humans, ready to stand against them, ready to fight, ready to sacrifice everything to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson in those 6 months of war. It had learned that the quiet species from the small system was not quiet by nature, they were quiet by choice. And when that choice was taken away from them, when their people were threatened and their children were endangered, they became something terrifying. They became the storm that swept away empires. They became the fury that shook the very foundations of space itself. They became the proof that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses to be peaceful. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.
The bright lights of the space station shined against the darkness of space. Jack Mason looked out the small window of the shuttle as it approached the massive structure. His heart beat faster. This was it. the first official meeting between humans and the Galactic Concord. "Nervous?" asked Paul Wright, the shuttle pilot. "A little," Jack admitted. "Wouldn't you be? We're about to meet 7 different alien species." Jack straightened his dark blue uniform. As Earth's lead diplomat, he carried the hopes of all humanity on his shoulders. The discovery of the Galactic Concord 4 months ago had changed everything. Humans were no longer alone in the universe. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Jack gathered his tablet and notes. Behind him, his team of 5 other diplomats checked their equipment one last time. "Remember," Jack said to them, "we represent all of Earth. Stay calm, be respectful, but don't let them push us around." The airlock door slid open. 3 aliens waited on the other side. One was tall and slender with blue skin that seemed to shimmer. Another was shorter with 4 arms and gray scales. The third looked almost like a giant insect with compound eyes. The blue alien stepped forward. "Welcome to Station Harmony. I am Ambassador Creel of the Alterans. We speak for the Concord in these discussions." Jack bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Jack Mason, representing Earth and all human colonies." The aliens led them through wide hallways. Jack noticed how other aliens stopped to stare at the humans. Some whispered to each other. He heard clicks and hums that must have been alien languages. They entered a large round room with a circular table. Representatives from all 7 major species sat waiting. Jack recognized none of them from the briefing files. The Vordaks were massive creatures with thick armor-like skin. The Makari looked like elegant birds with long necks. The others were just as strange and wonderful. "Please be seated," Creel said, gesturing to empty chairs. As Jack sat down, he noticed the chairs were slightly too big for humans. It was a small thing, but it made him feel like a child at the adults' table. "We are pleased that Earth has joined the galactic community," said a Vordak's representative. His voice was deep and rumbling. "As a young species, you have much to learn. The Concord will guide your development." Jack smiled politely. "We are eager to learn, but Earth has its own rich history and culture. We hope to contribute as well as learn." A slight ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the aliens. "Of course," said a Makari, her voice musical. "All species bring something to the Concord, even the newest ones." For the next several hours, they discussed trade, technology sharing, and territorial boundaries. Jack noticed how the aliens always spoke of humans as developing or emerging, never as equals. Susan Howard, Jack's assistant, leaned close to him. "They're treating us like children," she whispered. "I know," Jack whispered back. "But for now, we learn what we can." 3 weeks passed. The negotiations continued each day. The humans were given quarters on the station. Jack found the aliens' attitudes frustrating, but progress was being made. Earth would gain access to faster-than-light travel technology and medical advances. In return, the Concord wanted access to Earth's unique biological diversity and cultural archives. Then came the message from Earth. "Sir," said Susan, entering Jack's quarters late one night. Her face was pale. "We've lost contact with the Proxima colony." Jack sat up straight. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "Complete silence for 12 hours now. And before that, there were reports of unknown ships in the system." Jack frowned. "Could be a solar flare or equipment failure." "Maybe," Susan said. "But General Carter thinks otherwise. She says it matches the pattern of 3 other outposts that went silent last week." Jack felt a chill. He had not been told about other outposts going silent. "Get me a meeting with Ambassador Creel," Jack said. "First thing tomorrow." Susan nodded and left. Jack turned to look out his window at the stars. Something wasn't right, and he was beginning to suspect that the Concord's friendly welcome might be hiding something much darker. Jack paced the small meeting room, waiting for Ambassador Creel. 3 months had passed since negotiations began. In that time, he had learned to read some alien expressions. He hoped this skill would help him now. The door slid open. Creel entered with 2 Vordax representatives. "Diplomat Mason," Creel said. "You requested an urgent meeting." Jack nodded. "Thank you for coming. We've lost all contact with our colony on Proxima Centauri B." The aliens exchanged glances. Jack caught it. A subtle movement that seemed practiced. "Communication equipment fails," said one of the Vordax. His name was Growth. "Especially with primitive systems." Jack kept his face calm despite the insult. "Our systems are not primitive by our standards. And this is the 4th colony to go silent in 2 weeks. Perhaps solar activity," suggested Creel. "Or maybe pirates. The outer regions can be dangerous." "Pirates?" Jack asked. "You never mentioned pirates during our discussions about safe travel routes." Creel's blue skin rippled slightly. "There are always risks in space. The Concorde cannot control every sector." Jack didn't believe him. Something felt wrong. "We would like to send ships to check on our colonies," Jack said. "Of course," Groth said too quickly. "Though I would advise waiting. Your ships are fragile compared to what might be out there." After the meeting, Jack returned to the human quarters. His team waited for his report. "They're hiding something," Jack told them. "Susan, what did you find in the Concorde databases?" Susan Howard activated her tablet. "Not much. They restrict our access, but I found references to something called species testing in some older files." "Species testing?" asked Greg Baker, the team's cultural expert. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Susan said, "but it was mentioned alongside other new members of the Concorde, always in their first year of contact." Jack frowned. "Keep digging. And we need to talk to Earth." Later that night, Jack used the secure communication line to speak with General Carter back on Earth. "It's worse than we thought," Carter said. Her face on the screen looked tired. 6 colonies now, not just 4. We've sent ships to investigate, but they'll take weeks to arrive. The Concorde is lying to us, Jack said. "Unsure of it." "We think so too," Carter replied. "We've been analyzing their technology since first contact. There's something odd. Their weapons systems seem designed to be seen, not just to be effective." "What do you mean?" "It's like they're showing off, making sure we know how powerful they are." Jack thought about this. "Like a warning?" "Exactly," Carter said. "Meanwhile, keep playing nice. Learn what you can." The next day, a new person joined Jack's team. Her name was Diane Calloway. She wore a civilian outfit, but Jack recognized a military posture. "General Carter sent me," she said when they were alone. "I'm here to help gather intelligence." "You think the Concorde is behind the attacks?" Jack asked. Diane nodded. "We've intercepted some communications. The attacks follow a pattern. They're testing our response times, our defenses." "Which species?" Jack asked. "Mainly the Vordax, but the Makari are involved too. The others might not even know." Jack walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Why not just attack Earth directly if that's their goal?" "They don't want a war with everyone," Diane explained. "Just to make sure we know our place. The colonies are small. Easy targets. So what do we do?" "Keep negotiating," Diane said. "Act like we don't know. Meanwhile, Earth is preparing." Jack turned back to her. "Preparing how?" Diane smiled slightly. "Let's just say we've learned more from their technology than they think we have." A soft beep came from Jack's tablet. A message from Susan. "Need to see you now. Found something big." Jack looked at Diane. "Let's go see what she found." As they walked through the station corridors, Jack noticed more alien eyes watching them. The friendly facade was starting to crack. The question now was how long they needed to maintain their own pretense of ignorance, and what Earth was planning behind the scenes. Susan's quarters were filled with displays showing star maps and data. When Jack and Diane entered, she quickly shut the door behind them. "I had to slice into their secure systems," Susan said in a low voice. "If they catch me, we'll have a diplomatic problem." "What did you find?" Jack asked. Susan tapped her screen. A map appeared showing human colony worlds. Red dots marked the silent colonies. "Look at the pattern," she said. "They're moving inward, getting closer to Earth each time." Diane studied the map. "It's a standard military approach. Test the outer defenses first, then move inward." "There's more," Susan said. She pulled up a file with alien text. "I found this in the Vordax military database. It's a report about the attack on Proxima." "You can read their language?" Jack asked, surprised. Susan nodded. "I've been learning. This report talks about minimal resistance and successful resource assessment." "So it was them," Jack said, his face grim. "They're attacking our colonies while sitting across from us at the negotiation table." "It gets worse," Susan continued. "I found references to something called the New Species Protocol. It's happened before, to other races." She showed them more files. Pictures of other alien worlds, reports of attacks. "The Concord, or at least some members of it, do this to all new species," Susan explained. "They test them militarily while pretending to welcome them." "Why?" Jack asked. "To see if they're worth respecting," Diane said, "or if they can just be taken over." Jack's tablet beeped with a message. It was from Ambassador Creel, requesting his presence at an emergency meeting. "They know," Jack said. "They know we've discovered something." "Go to the meeting," Diane advised. "Act normal. We need more time." Jack nodded and left. As he walked through the station corridors, he noticed more security personnel than usual. The atmosphere had changed. The meeting room had only 3 people waiting: Creel, growth from the Vordax, and a Makari representative named Valera. "Diplomat Mason," Creel said, "we have news about your colonies." Jack kept his face neutral. "Oh, it appears there have been some unfortunate incidents," Creel said. "Pirate activity, as we suspected." "Pirates," Jack repeated. "Yes," Groth rumbled. "Very unfortunate, but perhaps a good lesson about the dangers of space." "A lesson." Jack couldn't keep the edge from his voice. Valera, the bird-like Makari, tilted her head. "All new species must learn how dangerous the galaxy can be, how important protection is." "Protection? From the Concord, you mean?" The 3 aliens exchanged glances. "Earth is small," Groth said. "Your technology is basic. Your military is limited. The Concord offers guidance and protection to developing species." Now Jack understood. This wasn't just testing. It was a shakedown. Attack the colonies, then offer protection, which really meant control. "I see," Jack said carefully. "And if we refuse this protection?" "That would be unwise," Creel said. "Very unwise." Back in the human quarters, Jack shared what he had learned with his team. "They're not even denying it anymore," he said. "They're just calling it pirate activity, while hinting that we need their protection." "Standard colonization tactic," Diane said. "Create a threat, then offer to solve it, for a price." "What's our next move?" Greg asked. Jack was about to answer when his secure line beeped. It was General Carter again. "Jack," she said when her face appeared on screen. "How much do they know about Earth's defenses?" "Only what we've told them," Jack replied. "Which isn't much." Carter nodded. "Good. Keep it that way. We've detected a large fleet of ships heading toward our solar system. Vordax design mainly. An invasion force," Diane said. "Yes," Carter confirmed. "But we're ready for them. Project Guardian is complete." "Project Guardian?" Jack asked. Carter smiled slightly. "Let's just say Earth hasn't been sitting idle since first contact. We've been learning." "What do you need us to do?" Jack asked. "Keep them talking," Carter said. "And be ready. In 3 days, you'll need to call an emergency session of the full Concord Assembly." "What for?" "To make a statement," Carter said. "One the whole galaxy will hear." For the next 2 days, Jack and his team worked to learn as much as possible about the Concorde's true plans. Susan continued to hack into their databases while Diane studied their military formations. Gray analyzed cultural files to better understand the alien mindset. It's all about resources, Gray explained during their private meeting. Earth has something they want. What? Jack asked. Water, minerals, biological diversity. Greg counted on his fingers. But mostly, they'd want human labor. Slaves, Diane said flatly. Greg nodded. They've done it before. The Lorians were the last species they welcomed into the Concorde. Now they work in mines across Vordax space. Jack shook his head in disgust. And the other Concorde members just allow this. Some benefit from it, Susan said, looking up from her computer. Others are too afraid to speak up. The Vordax and Macquarie have the largest fleets. Jack's tablet beeped with an incoming message. It was from Frank Miller, administrator of the New Hope colony that had gone silent 2 weeks ago. He's alive, Jack said, quickly opening the message. Frank's face appeared, tired and wounded. This is Administrator Miller from New Hope. I'm sending this through 7 different relay points, so hopefully the Vordax can't trace it. They attacked without warning. Disabled our communications first, then hit our power grid. They're strip mining the planet now, taking our resources. They've captured most of the colonists for labor reassignment. I managed to escape with a few others. We've been collecting evidence of what they're doing. I'm sending it now. This isn't just happening to us. They've hit every colony in this sector. God help us all. The message ended, followed by a flood of data files. Images of Vordax ships attacking human settlements. Videos of colonists being marched onto transport vessels. Sensor readings of weapons used. This is it, Diane said. Hard evidence of their attacks. Send this to Earth immediately, Jack ordered. General Carter needs to see this. An hour later, Carter called back on the secure line. We've received the Miller files, she said. This changes things. We're moving up the timetable. The Vordax fleet will reach our outer sensor range tomorrow. What about Project Guardian? Jack asked. Carter smiled. It's ready. Has been for weeks. We just needed confirmation of their hostile intent before activating it. These files give us that. What exactly is Project Guardian? Jack asked. Carter hesitated. After first contact, we analyzed every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on. We learned their weaknesses, their blind spots. We've been building a defense network unlike anything they've seen before. They think we're primitive, Jack realized. Exactly, Carter said. And that's our advantage. Request the emergency session for tomorrow, when their fleet is in position near Earth. The next morning, Jack formally requested an emergency session of the full Concorde Assembly. To his surprise, Groth immediately agreed. Of course, Diplomat Mason, the Vordax representative, said with what passed for a smile on his reptilian face. The Concorde always listens to the concerns of its newest members. Jack nodded politely, hiding his thoughts. Groth was confident, too confident. He believed the Vordax fleet was about to arrive at Earth unopposed. Thank you, Jack said. I believe this matter concerns all Concorde members. Word spread quickly through the station. An emergency session called by the humans. It was unprecedented for a new species to request such a thing. Representatives from 32 different species began arriving at the Great Assembly Hall. They're curious, Susan whispered as they watched aliens filing into the chamber. Most of them don't know what the Vordax have been doing. They will soon, Jack said. His tablet beeped with a message from Earth. 2 words from General Carter. Guardian active. Jack took a deep breath and nodded to his team. It was time to show the galaxy that humans were not the easy prey the Vordax thought them to be. As he walked toward the speaking platform, Jack felt the weight of all humanity on his shoulders. What happened in the next few minutes would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for centuries to come. The Great Assembly Hall of the Concorde buzzed with the sounds of many alien species talking at once. Clicks, whistles, rumbles, and translated words filled the air. Jack stood calmly at the center of the speaking platform. Behind him, Susan worked on connecting their presentation to the hall's display systems. "Are you ready?" Diane whispered from her position near the wall. Jack nodded slightly. He glanced at Growth and the other Vordax representatives. They looked smug, their scaled skin gleaming under the lights. They thought this was just a formality before their fleet reached Earth. Creel approached the platform. "The emergency session call by Earth is now open. Diplomat Mason, you have the floor." Jack stepped forward. The room quieted. "Thank you, Ambassador Creel. Representatives of the Concord, I come before you today with grave news. For the past several weeks, human colonies have been attacked. Our people have been killed or taken. Our resources stolen." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Vordax shifted in their seats but remained silent. "These attacks follow a pattern," Jack continued. "A pattern some of you may recognize from your own history." He nodded to Susan. The large display behind him came to life, showing images from the Miller files. Alien ships firing on human settlements, buildings burning, people running in terror. "These are not pirates," Jack said firmly. "These are Vordax warships, sometimes accompanied by Macquarie scout vessels." The room erupted. Some species shouted in anger. Others turned to look at the Vordax representatives. Groth stood up. "This is absurd. These are fabrications. The humans are trying to gain sympathy with false claims." Jack held up his hand. "We have more evidence." The display changed to show Frank Miller's face. "My name is Frank Miller," the recording began. "I was the administrator of New Hope Colony until the Vordax attacked us 10 days ago. This is not a fabrication. This is our reality." The recording continued, showing Miller's escape and the evidence he had gathered. When it ended, the room was quieter than before. A different kind of silence filled the space, the silence of shock. "The Vordax and Macquarie have been systematically attacking our colonies," Jack said, while pretending to welcome us into the Concord. A representative from a small furry species stood up. "They did the same to us 80 years ago. We lost 3 worlds before we surrendered." Another alien, tall and thin with pale skin, rose. "And to us, 2 centuries passed. We thought we were alone in this treatment." More voices joined in, more stories of the same pattern. The Vordax grew increasingly agitated. "Enough," Growth roared. "These are the complaints of weak species. The galaxy belongs to the strong." "Is that your official position, Representative Growth?" Jack asked calmly. Growth's eyes narrowed. "My position is that Earth will soon understand its place in the galaxy. Even now, our fleet approaches your homeworld. Perhaps we should continue this discussion after you have felt the might of the Vordax military." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Such a direct threat violated all Concord protocols. Jack smiled. It was the opening he had been waiting for. "You're referring to the fleet of 27 warships currently at the edge of our solar system." Groth looked surprised. "You know of them?" "We do," Jack said. He nodded to Susan again. The display changed to show real-time footage of space near Earth. The Vordax ships were clearly visible, moving into attack formation. "We've been tracking them since they entered our outer sensor range," Jack explained, "just as we've been monitoring your communications with them." Groth's face darkened. "It doesn't matter. Your primitive defenses are no match for our technology. Earth will fall, and this pointless discussion will be over." As if on cue, Jack's tablet beeped with an incoming message. He glanced down, then looked back at Growth with a steady gaze. "I think you might want to watch what happens next," Jack said, gesturing to the display. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the screen, watching as the Vordax fleet approached Earth. On the large display, the Vordax ships moved closer to Earth. Their weapons systems powered up, visible as bright spots on their hulls. The assembly watched in silence. Some aliens looked away, not wanting to see the destruction of another world. Groth smiled, his sharp teeth gleaming. Watch and learn the price of defiance. Jack remained calm. He checked his tablet again, reading the updates from General Carter. The lead Vordax ship fired the first shot. A bright beam of energy lanced toward Earth. Then something unexpected happened. The beam hit an invisible barrier and scattered into harmless light. Confused murmurs spread through the assembly hall. Groth's smile faded. One by one, small objects appeared around the Vordax fleet. They had been there all along, hidden by advanced cloaking technology. Human defense satellites, hundreds of them, surrounding the alien ships. "What is this?" Groth demanded. "Project Guardian," Jack said simply. The satellites activated, not with weapon fire, but with energy fields that wrapped around each Vordax ship. The alien vessels slowed, then stopped completely. Their lights flickered and went dark. "What have you done?" Groth roared. "Disabled your ships," Jack explained. "We targeted your power systems with an electromagnetic pulse designed specifically for Vordax technology. Your ships are now floating metal boxes. No weapons, no engines, no communications." The assembly erupted in shocked conversations. The Vordax were known for their advanced shields. No one had been able to penetrate them before. "Impossible," Valera of the Macquarie screeched. "Human technology is primitive." Jack turned to face her. "Is it, or is that just what you wanted to believe?" Susan changed the display again. This time it showed human scientists working on alien technology, taking it apart, studying it, improving it. "When you make first contact with a species," Jack explained to the assembly, "do you really think they show you everything they can do? Earth has a long history of warfare and deception. We learned long ago to keep our true capabilities hidden." Another image appeared on the screen. Admiral Olivia Morgan stood on the bridge of a human warship. Behind her, a fleet of ships unlike any the aliens had seen before. "This is Admiral Morgan of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "The Vordax fleet has been neutralized without casualties. Their crews are unharmed but unable to operate their vessels. We are now moving to retrieve our citizens from occupied colonies." Groth slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. The Vordax Empire will not stand for this humiliation." Jack turned to face him directly. "You attacked us first, Representative Groth. You attacked our colonies, killed our people, and just now try to attack our homeworld. We merely defended ourselves. With technology you shouldn't have." Groth snarled. "With technology we developed," Jack corrected. "Yes, we studied yours. We learned from it. But Project Guardian is human-made, using principles your scientists overlooked." More images appeared on the screen. Human ships were now visible near several colony worlds. They moved past disabled Vordax vessels, heading toward the planets. "We have been monitoring your actions since first contact," Jack continued. "We suspected your true intentions from the beginning. The Vordax have a reputation, after all. Now we have confirmed it." Jack turned to address the entire assembly. "Earth did not come here today just to expose the Vordax attacks. We came to show the galaxy that humans are not easy prey. We will defend ourselves. We will protect our people." A representative from a small, insect-like species stood up. "The Krill Confederation would like to establish direct diplomatic relations with Earth, outside of Concord oversight." Another alien stood, the Talarian Union as well. More voices joined in. Species that had suffered under Vordax influence now saw a potential ally in humanity. Creel tried to restore order, but the assembly had descended into chaos. The Vordax delegation stormed out, followed by the Macquarie. Other species gathered in small groups, talking excitedly. In the midst of it all, Jack stood calmly. He caught Susan's eye and nodded slightly. Phase 1 was complete. Earth had proven itself. Now came the hard part, reshaping the power balance of the entire galaxy. Jack watched as Creel struggled to regain control of the assembly. The blue-skinned alien was sweating, his shimmer fading to a dull glow. This was not how things were supposed to go. The Vordax had assured him that Earth would be dealt with quietly. "Order," Creel called, his voice lost in the noise. "We must have order." Jack caught Diane's eye across the room. She nodded slightly. It was time for the next phase. "Ambassador Creel," Jack said, his voice cutting through the noise. The room began to quiet. "I have not finished my presentation." Creel looked relieved at Jack's help in restoring order. "Yes, of course, Diplomat Mason. Please continue." Jack stepped back to the center of the platform. The room fell completely silent now, all eyes on the human. Even those species who had been talking amongst themselves turned to listen. "What I have shown you today is evidence of attacks on human colonies," Jack said. "But there is something more important I need to say." He paused, looking around the room, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of worlds. "You attacked our home." The simple words hung in the air. No one moved. No one spoke. The galaxy, it seemed, held its breath. "Not just the Vordax," Jack continued. "Not just the Makari, but the Concord itself. An institution that claims to welcome new species while allowing the strong to prey on the weak." He nodded to Susan. The display changed again, showing images of other worlds, other species that had suffered similar fates. "We found these in your own archives," Jack explained. "Records of 27 other species who joined the Concord in the last millennium. All tested, all attacked. Some survived and became members. Others were enslaved or destroyed." A ripple of discomfort moved through the assembly. "Humans have a long and bloody history," Jack continued. "For thousands of years, we fought each other. Nation against nation. Ideology against ideology. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once, but we learned from our mistakes. We united. We grew." The display showed images from human history, ancient battles, modern wars, and finally, the United Earth Government. "We know conflict. We understand power. And we recognize bullies when we see them." Jack turned to face the representatives of the smaller species, those who had suffered under Vordax rule. "Earth did not come to the stars looking for war. We came seeking friends, allies, partners. But we will not be victims. We will not allow our people to be enslaved. And we will not stand by while others suffer the same fate." Jack nodded again to Susan. The display changed one last time, showing the faces of human colonists who had been captured, including children. "These are our people, our families. While we talked peace here, they suffered. That ends today." He turned back to address the entire assembly. "Earth is officially withdrawing from Concord membership negotiations." Gasps filled the room. No species had ever rejected the Concord. "Instead, we offer the following. Earth will establish a new alliance, one based on mutual respect and protection. Any species who wishes to join us will be welcomed as equals. Any who wish to continue under Concord rule may do so." Jack looked directly at where the Vordax had been sitting. "And to those who think they can prey on others because of their military might, I have this warning. We are watching. We are ready. And we will respond." The silence that followed was deeper than before. It was the silence of a galaxy realizing that everything had changed. An elderly representative from one of the oldest species in the Concord slowly stood. Her thin frame seemed frail, but her voice was strong. "I have lived 900 years, she said. "I have seen many species come and go, but never have I seen such courage from one so new to the stars. The Eldar will stand with Earth." One by one, other representatives stood, each pledging their support. The alliance was forming before their eyes. Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Earth would not stand alone. 1 month later, Jack stood in a new meeting room on Earth's first deep space station, Unity. Around him sat representatives from 17 former Concord species. They had all joined what was now called the Terran Alliance. "The rescue operations are nearly complete," Admiral Morgan reported. Her image filled the main screen. We've recovered over 90% of the human colonists taken by the vortex. The rest. She paused. We're still searching. Jack nodded gravely. And the colonies? Rebuilding has begun, Morgan said. With help from our new allies, it's going faster than expected. A tall, green-skinned representative named Zilk spoke up. My people have sent engineers to help on New Hope. It's the least we could do. The Vordax took 3 of our worlds 50 years ago. Speaking of the Vordax, Diane said, our intelligence reports they're pulling back to their core systems. They've abandoned outposts in 12 sectors. They fear retaliation, said Elder Thorn of the Eldar. Her ancient eyes held a spark of satisfaction. For the first time in 5 centuries, the Vordax know fear. Jack looked around the table. We didn't form this alliance for revenge. No, Thorn agreed. But for too long, the strong have preyed on the weak in this galaxy. That time is ending. The doors slid open, and Susan entered. She had been promoted to Earth's Chief of Interstellar Communications. Ambassador Mason, she said, smiling at Jack's new title. The Concord has sent a formal message. They wish to open diplomatic relations with the Terran Alliance. Murmurs spread around the table. Some seemed pleased, others suspicious. And who's representing the Concord now? Jack asked. Ambassador Creel has been replaced, Susan said. A Telleran named Voss is their new speaker. Jack nodded. The Tellerans were known for their fairness. It was a good sign. Tell them we'll meet in neutral space, Jack said. We're willing to talk, but as equals, not supplicants. As the meeting ended, Jack walked to the observation deck. Earth shined blue and white below. Ships from a dozen worlds moved in careful patterns around the station. Some were trading vessels, others diplomatic shuttles. Greg joined him at the window. Quite a view. Hard to believe it's only been 4 months since first contact, Jack said. 4 months and a complete reshaping of galactic politics, Greg laughed. Not bad for a primitive species. Jack smiled. The Vordax made a mistake. They judged us by our technology, not our nature. A costly error, Greg agreed. There's a saying spreading through the former Concord worlds now. Never assume humans are defenseless. They're just waiting to see what you'll do. Jack's tablet beeped with a message. It was from Frank Miller, now leading the rebuilding of New Hope Colony. Ambassador Mason, Miller's message began. You should see what we've built here. With help from the Zilk engineers, we've created something better than before. The colony is thriving. People are calling it the Phoenix Project, rising from the ashes stronger than ever. When can we expect a visit from Earth's famous diplomat? Jack smiled as he read. This was why they had fought, not just to survive, but to build something better. A young aide approached. Ambassador, your shuttle to the Concord meeting is ready. Jack nodded. Thank you. I'll be right there. He took one last look at Earth. Their home, the home they had defended. As he turned to leave, he thought about how much had changed since that moment in the Concord assembly when the galaxy went silent. Humans had entered the galactic stage as newcomers, seen as weak and primitive. Now they led an alliance of worlds, respected and even feared by those who had once looked down on them. All because they had refused to be victims. All because they had been prepared. All because, when pushed, they had pushed back. Jack smiled to himself as he boarded the shuttle. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Earth might be young among the stars, but humanity was not to be underestimated. And now, as they moved forward into this new era of galactic politics, Jack knew one thing for certain. The future of humanity among the stars was just beginning.